I'm the cop again. Can I stop him constitutionally?
Same answer. No.
No.
You would need more than that to be able to conduct an investigative stop.
Why doesn't that give me reasonable suspicion? So we can agree our privacy is precious to us, even if we're in a car, right?
I would agree that the Fourth Amendment very thankfully protects us all from unreasonable searches and seizures.
So how come the cops can set up a roadblock and stop everybody when they don't have either reasonable suspicion or probable cause, just to check and see if they have insurance?
So there are limitations on scenarios like that, roadblock cases.
Can they do it first, counsel? I mean,
officers can set up roadblocks if they are applying it based on a neutral and articulable standard, and if that standard relates to something that is specific to automobiles. So they could not stop every car to search.
You're right about the law, but why is not they don't have reasonable suspicion. They're stopping everybody. They certainly don't have probable cause. It's intrusive. I mean, I can spend 10 minutes in line for them to check my insurance.
Welcome back to Right View Nation, your home for unapologetic, no-holds-barred conservative commentary. Today, we're going to break down something that should have every single American asking, what in the world is happening to our country? I'm talking about judicial overreach and how it's slowly but surely chipping away at the freedoms our founding fathers fought for. You see, folks, our Constitution was never meant to be a living, breathing document that changes with the whims of today's politically correct culture. No, it was designed to protect freedom, individual rights, and above all, limit the power of government, something we seem to have forgotten in today's political climate. We just saw Senator John Kennedy, a man who's actually willing to stand up for the Constitution, questioning judicial nominees on whether they believe the Fourth Amendment still matters. And let me tell you, what he exposed is deeply troubling. Folks, we are living in an age where the left-wing elites have successfully created a judicial system that often ignores the rights of ordinary Americans. What we're seeing here is exactly what I've been warning about, a creeping authoritarianism disguised as progressivism. These judges, who are often appointed by liberal politicians, are looking to reinterpret the Constitution not as a framework for individual liberty, but as a tool for expanding government control. Senator Kennedy is right to ask these nominees, what does the Fourth Amendment mean to you? Because we know where this is headed. They're not just coming for your Second Amendment rights, they're coming for everything. Let's break down the facts. One nominee argued that police cannot stop someone simply because they're driving at 3 a.m., and I'll tell you what, I agree with that. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. The deeper issue here is the erosion of common sense. We've all heard about the left's war on police. They say things like defund the police or don't enforce the law, all under the guise of social justice. But let's be clear, what they're really doing is undermining the basic principle of law and order. Imagine this. A police officer with years of training and experience sees someone driving erratically at 3 a.m., and they have every reason to suspect the driver might be under the influence. But according to these judicial activists, that officer doesn't have the right to stop and investigate. That's not just unconstitutional, it's dangerous. Now, let's talk about roadblocks.
On condition to be nice to all of these folks. So with that, Senator Kennedy.
I'm always nice. How many of you worked for Senator Schmidt? All 4 of you. Is it true that he was suspended 23 times in junior high school in February alone?
They're under oath.
Look, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not going to ask you how you rule on cases, and I'm not going to ask you about your political beliefs. I just want to know how you think. Let's start with the counselor on the end. Let's suppose I'm a cop, and I'm on duty, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see somebody driving down the road. Many other people around. It's on a Saturday night. Can I stop him?
Just because you see him driving around?
Yeah.
There would need to be more of a basis than that.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
Okay. let's suppose that I recognize him. And on 3 previous occasions, he's been caught for charged with DWI. But he's not driving erratically. I'm the cop again, can I stop him constitutionally?
Same answer. No.
No?
You would need more than that to be able to conduct an
Why don't
investigative stop.
why doesn't that give me reasonable suspicion?
I think merely the fact that he was driving at 3 a.m. and had been pulled over previously for driving under the influence wouldn't be enough. Now, it certainly, if he were swerving or driving improperly in some other way, if he committed a traffic violation or something along those lines, certainly the officer would be well within his rights.
So we can agree our privacy is precious to us, even if we're in a car, right?
I would agree that the Fourth Amendment very thankfully protects us all from unreasonable searches and seizures.
So how come the cops can set up a roadblock and stop everybody when they don't have either reasonable suspicion or probable cause, just to check and see if they have insurance?
So there are limitations on scenarios like that, roadblock
But
cases.
can they do it first, counsel? I mean,
Officers can set up roadblocks if they are applying it based on a neutral and articulable standard, and if that standard relates to something that is specific to automobiles. So they could not stop every car to search.
you're right about the law, but why is they don't have reasonable suspicion. They're stopping everybody. They certainly don't have probable cause. It's intrusive. I mean, I can spend 10 minutes in line for them to check my insurance. What's the basis for that being constitutional?
I think the way I would frame it is that the courts have decided that scenarios like that, and in scenarios like that, officers would not be acting unreasonably. So they would not be violating somebody's Fourth Amendment rights.
Because the Fourth Amendment
Guarantees against
prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures.
correct.
And how do you determine whether something's unreasonable or not?
Well, I think that would very much depend on the situation, the specific facts and the context.
Don't you balance the costs and benefits?
In a scenario like that, yes.
Okay, cool. Judge, what's the rule now that the Supreme Court follows on reapportionment cases? Congressional redistricting.
Congressional redistricting. My understanding, Senator, is that the Supreme Court has decided that that's a political issue, and under the political issue doctrine, that essentially the courts really don't have much of anything to say about political redistricting.
If Missouri's legislature gets together and it redraws districts, and they're, let's say, a majority of Democrats in the legislature, so they say, we're going to redraw these districts to benefit Democrats. And we're not going to be reluctant to say so. They say it in front of God and country. Is that okay?
Well, it's pursuant to the Supreme Court precedent. It's legal.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not going to get to all of you. Counselor? Just counselor. Yes, ma'am. Do you think the meaning of the Constitution is immutable?
So I think that the U.S. Supreme Court has said that
I want to know what you think.
So, yeah, my view in terms of like what it is that, you know, my way of looking at the Constitution is to say, what does the text say, and what did it mean at the time that it was passed? And this is something that the U.S. Supreme Court also says. If that's not clear, I think there are other things you can look to, like history and tradition, to decide what the
You
text
look
means.
to what it meant at the time it was passed,
Correct.
what it meant to whom?
To the people who were passing it.
To the people who wrote it?
So I think there are various different ways of looking at this, and I think the U.S. Supreme Court has said that you look at the meaning that the words would have to the public at the time that the Constitution was ratified.
That's right. I'm done. Thank you. Congratulations.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate
your patience in allowing me to.
Senator Kennedy asked a very valid question. Why is it constitutional for police officers to set up a roadblock and stop every car in sight, regardless of whether they have probable cause or reasonable suspicion? These liberals want to frame it as a routine check, but let's be honest. These roadblocks are a clear violation of your Fourth Amendment rights, unreasonable searches and seizures, folks. Let's break this down. The Fourth Amendment was put in place to protect citizens from government overreach. And here we have a scenario where the government can stop you without any specific cause, and they claim it's for your own good. If you want to know why we're constantly fighting to protect our freedoms, this is exactly why. When is enough enough? Next, let's talk about redistricting. The Supreme Court has ruled that it's a political issue, meaning the courts don't get involved in the way political parties draw districts. But we all know what's happening here. We've seen it for years, gerrymandering, and it's not just Republicans or Democrats who are guilty. Both sides use this tactic to rig the system in their favor, making sure that the party in power gets to keep power. This isn't just politics, it's undermining the entire democratic process. Now, some say this is just the way it is. But I'm here to tell you, we deserve better. This system is broken, and the courts should have the power to step in and make sure that every American's vote counts. Right now, the system is being rigged by politicians to guarantee that they win, and that is wrong. But of course, the left doesn't mind that. It keeps their agenda alive. Finally, we're talking about constitutional interpretation. One nominee said they believe the Constitution's meaning should be based on the original understanding of the framers. And thank God for that, because that's the way it was meant to be. The left-wing judiciary wants to treat the Constitution as a living, breathing document. But what that really means is they can twist it to fit their own radical agenda. We saw that with Roe versus Wade, and we'll continue to see it if we don't fight back. What's at stake here isn't just one or two issues. What's at stake is the future of our country. If we allow these activist judges to continue reinterpreting the Constitution to align with their political beliefs, we're going to see a total loss of freedom. So, what can we do about it? Well, we can't just sit back and hope things get better. It's time to stand up, speak out, and demand action. We need to elect leaders who will appoint judges that actually respect the Constitution. We need to demand that our laws protect our rights, not chip away at them. And most importantly, we need to hold our elected officials accountable. No more excuses. Thank you for watching Right View Nation. We're not backing down, and neither should you. If you believe in protecting our Constitution, in fighting for your freedoms, and in standing strong for the values that made this country great, hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget that the battle for freedom is always worth fighting for.